Hi, this is Lisa Phillips and I'm video blogging for Bigger Pockets. Today we're going to discuss some of the differences in investing in a landlord-friendly state versus a tenant-friendly state. So in general, your state and local policies are going to affect you a lot more closely day to day than the federal policies for being a landlord. And in general, I really get the sense that in tenant-friendly states versus landlord-friendly states, tenant-friendly states seem to be treated more as everyone's entitled to have a roof over their heads. So even if that makes the life of the landlord hard, well, the tenant automatically has the benefit of the doubt and should be able to stay there. Should. And in landlord-friendly states, it's ran more like a business. Like, these are the terms of the contract. You pay to play. If you do not pay, you cannot stay here. And it's that simple without all the excuses. So it's something that I didn't know until I actually invested. And my examples specifically come from the state of Maryland and Virginia. I'm in the DMV region, so you can get to either side within 30 to 40 minutes. And so I started in Maryland, but now I'm moving my practice to Virginia for some very key reasons. And it's just because it's so much easier and you don't have to deal with all the bureaucracies up north. And one thing that comes to mind immediately is lead-free certification and lead safety certification. So every year, if you want to have a tenant, you have to pay a fee. I think it's about $30 to the Maryland State lead registration site. And then in addition, anytime you have a tenant turnover, you need to go and get an inspection that there's no flaking paint in your property. And so this is called like your dust free, your lead dust free safety, and it's an expense and you have to get it done. And if they come and find something, you have to have them come, you have to wait. And if they tell you need to clean this up, you got to clean it and then they got to come back. So not only does it add time, but it adds a great deal of anxiety, and you have to do it or else you can't evict your tenant unless you've done the due diligence. And it's a bit stressful and you feel held at gunpoint. And if you wanted to be completely lead-free certified, well, there's a specter of, okay, you can try to go for lead-free certification, but if they find one piece of lead, you have to get a qualified lead removal specialist, which means it's very expensive to get it removed. And they even had a story on the state, Maryland State lead registration of a property owner who did not use a certified lead removal specialist, and they were very happy to talk about how not only did they fine him thousands of dollars, but they threw him in jail for contempt. It was a little crazy, but you have that specter looming over your head, a very hardcore, severe reaction. So you don't even, so you're not tempted to go with the lead free. Your really only recourse is to pay somebody about $165 to $200 every time your tenant turns over, and pay Maryland $30 for your lead-free certification that you're going through this process. It is such a hassle. And then I have an older property built before 1969 in Virginia that I most recently renovated, and it was amazing. All I had to do was disclose to the tenant that this is built before 1969, so there is a risk of lead paint in the walls. But then had them an education pamphlet. That's it. So I have all this anxiety and stress over here as a first-time investor. Then I come to Virginia and I saw that this was just so straightforward. I was like, what world am I in that it's so completely different? But that's when you really start paying attention to the fact, and people say it's a difference between landlord-friendly and tenant-friendly. It's something I didn't know until I was on the ground and I put my money in there, but it is real and it makes a difference in your business. One's a lot harder to run than in the other place. Another thing seems to be the LLC filing fees. In landlord-friendly states, they're a lot lower than in tenant-friendly states. And I've also, when I got the Maryland tax return, which is more tenant-friendly, it was amazing at how many pages it was, and how many questions, and how detailed it was, and they want to know every scrap of your money. And in Virginia, it was a lot simpler, not as intrusive, and the filing fees are 1/3 of the cost. So just amazingly easy to do business in these landlord-friendly states because they want business, which is obvious because when I look at Maryland, people invest there very successfully, but since I have the option of living in Virginia investing here, I can't go back to more work and more strain when it's just as profitable here in the state. So I can understand they have to keep expenses so high because businesses probably are leaving to the county or someplace else where they don't have to do as much to run the same business. And also, there's so many more government entities, and it's not like they don't want you to be a landlord in their states like Maryland. They want you to be there. They just feel very entitled to putting your hand in your pot, in your honey pot. So not only do you have to pay the lead registration, that hey, you're registered as a property that will be for rent and needs to go through lead registration, but you got to pay just to be a rental property. So you have to, the city of Baltimore has it where you have to tell them and pay them $30 a year to let them know you're going to rent the property. Yeah, that's an amazing expense. And with the more expensive LLC filing fees, you just have to constantly be on your guard and pay everybody money whenever they say so. And then Virginia, I had none of that. Not at all. I was actually quite surprised at how easy it was for me to just get it renovated and fixed up and get a tenant in. And also with evictions, now this is the key thing. So in evictions in Maryland, I had to evict a tenant and they go one by one. What did you pay your Maryland registration fees? Did you pay your Maryland rental registration? If you're in an LLC, are you in good standing? And if you're not, you actually have to go back and pay all these other government and city entities before you can evict them. Regardless, they won't even take your case or look at the fact that your tenant didn't pay if you don't have these things. And it's a little checkbox right at the bottom, and it's amazingly crazy. And, you don't have these fees and entities in Virginia. If they didn't pay, they come to court. And that's it. I was actually looking at some of the forums here in Bigger Pockets, and someone mentioned in Georgia that it's a very landlord-friendly state, and that in some places the judge will do a video recording saying if you did not pay your rent, you will be evicted, and that's it. There's no second guessing. There's no way out of this. You're not going to get an extension. And as a landlord, that's amazing because that's exactly what you want. The last thing any landlord wants is for people to move out. Not pay and live in their place because they can get a paying customer. So those are some of the key differences that I can tell you about that I've seen in landlord-friendly versus tenant-friendly states. And now my whole entire real estate strategy has shifted to really only focusing on landlord-friendly states just because the amount of work is so much less and the amount of stress is so much lower than what you have to really pay attention to in the nitpicky ones in the tenant-friendly states. So that's my experiences, more specifically Maryland, Virginia, but I have a feeling this really extrapolates to other places like New York and California, which are more tenant-friendly. And sometimes it's even local. You might have Philadelphia, but then you have Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia might be more tenant-friendly, but Pittsburgh is more landlord-friendly. So it can go down to the state level on what your responsibilities are and who you have to pay in order to do business and how smooth the eviction process is going to be. But now that I know the differences, I can't go and invest anymore in tenant-friendly states. I just know how much more work it is for the same exact real estate investing strategy. So thank you very much. I hope my experiences help explain some of the differences that you can see doing this investment type strategy. Blogging for Bigger Pockets. Thank you very much.